Welcome back, you guys, to the greatest version of you. I have one of the most adorable human beings you will ever meet on the planet, Miss Carlie Wood, who you guys probably know her as Carlie Styles. Do you get that a lot?
I still feel like it surprises me when someone's like, Carlie Styles. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's me. But I have a lot of, like, names going on right now, so we can get into that.
Yeah.
I legally haven't changed my married name, and not because I don't, like, I'm obsessed with my husband. It's just a lot of freaking paperwork. So when we go to have our babies, we're like, all right, what baby is this going under? Butler, Wood, Styles?
Who should we be today?
Yeah,
I know, I
so-
was telling Carlie, I'm like, I want an alter ego. What?
Why
you
you
don't
guys
like
are going to
that
help
one?
us give Becky, like, an internet name.
Yeah, except every time I get feedback, it's just a stripper name. So
I don't think that's the worst thing.
No,
It's not
there
the
are
worst.
worse things.
Hey, sex
This
sells.
is for sure. Oh, this is going to turn into a whole different podcast for
I
sure.
like it. It's my style.
Carlie and I actually met because I own a salon down in Sandy, Utah, and she came in with some friends and a sister-in-law as
Yes,
well,
yes,
and
Katie.
hung out a couple times. And then she lives in Pocatello, which why?
I'm so proud of you for pronouncing that. Most people are like, Poca what?
Pocahontas-tello?
It's just my hometown, but my husband's from Murray, so we're always like down here anyway.
Yes.
So I love Utah. I could live here. My husband doesn't love Utah.
No, he loves
Too many
Idaho.
Mormons, but we're Mormons, so it's fine.
I know. What's funny is I grew up in California, and I used to say that same thing.
Oh, that's right.
Like too many crazy Mormons, but now I'm not Mormon anymore. So now saying it sounds really bad. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
can't get away with
I can't
that.
get away with
You
it.
can't.
But they're still my people. Is
yeah.
that okay?
Listen, this is a non-judgment table, okay? We're like PG-13 version, so
This just turned into
fine.
Carlie's table, and she's a therapist now. She's gonna work
I will
through
do
my
that for you, yeah.
problems. I love it. I love it. Okay, so you obviously have a huge following on social media. I know you love YouTube and all these things. It's funny, my brother was just on the show, and we were talking about how anyone my age, if you want like information, first of all, it's different. When I was little,
Your age, like she's old.
oh my gosh,
This lady.
this is why we're friends. But you had to go to encyclopedias, like literally
Right.
the difference from when we started off as kids to where we are today, and having access to information and entertainment.
Yes.
It's just mind blowing.
It's kind of the best and worst time to be alive. Like, here's the worst. If your kids are listening and they are believers of Santa, turn it down. My Cooper, my oldest, he's 12.
Yes.
This is the year where we went over that, where we're doing Elf on the Shelf, and I have a teenager and like literally toddlers.
Yes.
So my life is kind of crazy.
over.
12-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And so I was like, well, Elf on the Shelf will be really fun because now we have like this dynamic where my littles are old enough to
Yes.
know, and Cooper can, and he's like, Mom, I'll just move the elf. And I'm like, you can't touch him. It's Christmas magic. And he's like, Mom, I watch YouTube. And I'm like, who the hell on YouTube is telling people? And he's like, there's a lot of videos out there. So
that's the bubble.
the worst information to be out on the internet, you're killing my Santa dreams
Yeah.
here, people.
Yeah,
So
that's
he
hard.
did learn on YouTube that.
My son, who's now 19, came to me and John, my husband, when he was probably 10, and sits us down like we're about to have a serious
Mom, Dad.
conversation. Yeah, and he's like, look. I was like, where's this going?
My whole life has been a lie.
And he starts off the conversation, don't lie to me.
Oh, you know you're in for it.
And we're
You're
like, oh my gosh. What
My
is
mind
Betty
would just
saying?
get
He's like,
wrapped with-
is Santa not real?
What do
And
you
we
say?
looked at each other and we're like, holy crap, what are we supposed to say?
See, this is a very controversial topic because there are a lot of parents who feel like that's really misleading and like you're like setting your kids up. And I'm like, can we just not all
Yeah.
be so emotional all the time
Yes,
about
and be
every topic?
politically correct
Yes,
all
and like
the time.
the spirit of Christmas and Santa,
Yeah.
it should be like your religion. It's personal. Like you make it your family
I
thing,
agree.
and people just like I'm a believer and I love it. And my husband is so funny. The other day we're driving and he's like, "Why the hell does he get all the credit? We work hard, we save our money, we provide all these gifts, and our kids are so happy, and he gets all
and
the
they're
credit."
like, Santa's amazing.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's
But
kinda
it also
true.
gives you that little, something to hang over their heads. Like, hey, he's watching.
See, that's another
That's
controversial.
true.
Like, people
Right?
should give us feedback on this because people are like, you shouldn't use Santa as a. I'm like, so you could. I feel like this is a whole world of.
I love the
know.
concept of the elf on the shelf. I just have no follow through.
Same. I'm the worst.
So it does not exist at our house.
I
Even my
literally-
little one was like, "Mom, everybody's talking about their elf on a shelf," and I look at him. He's kind of my older kids call him the golden child. He kind of like
He's your baby.
he's my baby.
He's your baby.
and they're grown adults
Yeah,
that
yeah. Hands off, he's a baby.
swear at me now. So in a good way, like we're joking, don't get me wrong. But my little one is just the sweetest thing. And he's like, we need an elf on the shelf. I said, no, you're just so good. Santa didn't need to send an elf. And he was like, oh.
Makes sense.
I mean, that's also kind of like a
Parentheses, mom's lazy, and that's way too much work.
Yeah, well, it's hard. Like every morning.
lot.
Every morning you have to move the thing. Like literally some mornings Cooper would remind me and I would like when he's not looking, like grab it and just throw it. I'm like, oh, he moved. Look, he's all over there.
Well, and one of our kids loves it, and our daughter,
freaked out?
She's freaked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you really think about the concept, it's kind of like this little like
But Santa's
tattletale elf.
But
that's-
Santa's creepy if you think about it. You know what I mean?
Tattletale
Like
elf.
you go,
I'll sit on his lap. It depends on what he's giving me. You know, like if I'm
What's
gonna
in that
get,
bag?
you know, a
Yeah.
white Louis, I don't know. I might sit on his lap.
there are certain levels of worth it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you think about it, I know I was thinking taking my kids to the mall to sit on his lap, and like the more I think about it, I'm like,
It's true.
you never know these days.
It's like everything we teach our kids not to do, and then Santa
Go talk
comes
to the
around
strange
and we're
man,
like,
sit on his lap, he'll give you candy.
Take
It's fine.
candy from a stranger, all of these things.
Okay, we just
Let
read
him in your
Christmas Spirit,
house.
Sorry.
Yeah, leave out cookies for him. I mean, literally the stuff that we.
I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus. Yeah, if we got
It's
into
a great
it.
song. Yeah.
Christmas
I never
is great.
understood that one growing up. I was
Yeah,
like, that's
it's like,
messed up.
What's wrong with that
This is
mom?
like kissing my mom.
Is Santa
Yeah.
going around and just doing that with all the moms?
Yeah, there should be more.
Santa,
We
he's
could make more
naughty.
naughty Christmas songs if you think about it. Like
We
there
need
could
to
be
have like
a whole album.
Like, I saw Santa. Yeah, what?
hanging out with Mom.
Just,
yeah, a little much.
Oh gosh, I did not mean to ruin Christmas spirit when I was the one saying I'm like all for it, but yeah, Christmas is kind of that's why I don't
Yeah.
know, you know, Christmas.
Yeah.
It's great.
But yeah, when your kid comes to you and is like, "Don't lie to me," it was like, "All right, it's time.
Yeah.
We have to know." But we did say, look, Santa only brings presents if you believe
Yeah.
in him.
I feel like that's where you can kind of transform to like
can.
the spirit of Christmas and
Yeah.
like you can talk more about like giving and
Yeah.
giving back and like, you know, I was telling my husband because he's like, our kids are spoiled. I'm like, they are. I'm like, but if we were more diligent about really honoring Christmas and not that Christmas is about getting gifts,
Yeah.
rather than buying them like things all the time, but rather than Christmas is this special
Yeah.
holiday where we get, you know, gifts because we love each other. But then the more I tried to ration, like the more I was like, this just sounds so worldly and
Yeah.
so about the things, but then I'm the
It
worst.
is.
I have like 20 Amazon boxes. My neighbor's like, you have all these boxes on your porch. Thank you, UPS.
Oh yeah.
So-
It's- But I think again, how you grew up plays a part. We like overcompensate.
Yeah.
Because when I was little, my parents did not buy us things
Right.
just to buy us things. Like if we
Right.
bought something, it was because school was starting, or it was a birthday.
It
or
was intentional.
Yeah, or it was
Yeah.
your toes are hanging out those sneakers. You need
You
new
need new shoes,
shoes.
yes.
And duct tape is wearing off. Like all
Right.
of those things. And you've gone through hand-me-downs. There was a whole list of
Right.
when was appropriate time to buy. And if there was a T-shirt you wanted, it's not going to be over $12.99
Right.
to get a T-shirt. And
Right.
then you get to the other place where you have kids and you can afford those things, and
Right.
then it becomes like this expectation to
Yes.
just for no reason entertain these children.
Yes. Do you feel like a part of, not that your parents didn't provide, because I feel like I'm in the same boat.
Oh, they
like my
totally
parents are
did.
just very like, you know, smart with their money.
They're
and
smarter than we
They
are.
weren't rich by any means, or like we weren't poor, but we were just comfortable. But
Yes.
if I wanted shoes or something, it was like we had to really think and talk about it. And I think now that I'm in a position, not that I'm rich or anything, I can afford to buy my son shoes.
Yeah.
I love doing that for him because
Yes.
I felt like when I got them, it was so special.
Yeah.
But then the same breath, I'm like, what am I doing for him long term if I just always give him the thing he wants?
Yep.
You know, it doesn't feel special anymore. So it's just,
I think it's also a love language thing with
yes.
moms.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because that's how I show my love is by doing,
Yes,
by
serving.
giving. It's like meeting a need,
Right.
fulfilling a need, all those things. And my husband is not wired that way at
Yeah.
all. Like it's completely
Love
different.
languages.
So we always have this back and forth because I spoil them, and then he has to come back and and lay the groundwork.
My husband's here. He's probably like taking
Yeah,
notes,
like the
"See, you're
same
just
way.
like
It
him.
goes
See, I'm
back
not
and
the only
forth.
one."
Yeah, no, you're not the only one. So it's like a constant battle. And then it's like
Yes.
he has to be strict and I overcompensate. And it's it's like a constant
That's why
battle.
marriage works. You have
Some
to be the
days
yin
it
to the
does,
yang.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, we're on 26 years. Just
that's amazing.
28th for us is 26 years. But every day is like you could not love this person more. And then the next night, you're still figuring out how to strangle them in their sleep. So,
Or be more annoyed at them.
yes, yeah. I saw a pastor. I follow this pastor on Instagram, and he was talking about the different levels of how that affects you. Like, why is it a total stranger can say something and it's not that offensive to you, but if your spouse says it to you, not only is it offensive, you're reading everything into it, and it hurts you more and it damages you more. And it's really because of the impact, kind of the levels of where you have them of priority in your life.
Right.
And he just said if it ever gets to a point where your spouse does not offend you, you're actually in a really unhealthy marriage.
That's such a good point. And I think that's true because you give that love to your spouse because they're the only ones you're going to allow that close to you. So of course they're going to be the one to hurt you the easiest.
Yes.
Right? Because you're not going to let some stranger off the street know even we're celebrating 4 years. Go us.
Nice.
4 years going on 5. But like still to this day, like I'm very guarded because I feel like some things that I've gone through my life just makes it hard for me to totally let down. And my husband will still say like, you can trust me, like let down your walls. And so I think like little by little over time, you learn to do that. But I think that giving that person that vulnerability and that access is a scary, dangerous thing. And so of course they're going to be the one to be able, going to hurt you the easiest, So, but yeah, marriage is hard. It's beautiful and hard and all
at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's just life in general. But I think it's scarier and it's harder to do some of those things by yourself. But I've also seen examples where it's easier by yourself. So it really depends on who you're doing life with.
It depends on I for sure don't want to do this life alone. You know, I think growing old and not having even it makes holidays and the things that kids do, I can't wait to send videos to my husband. A
little more special.
Yeah, my little girl just stood up for the other day, and the first person I thought of was my husband. He will just love that she did this, and sharing that together. But I'm also so independent, and sometimes he'll be like, "You need to stop being so independent and rely on me." And I'm like, sometimes I know I could live by myself, probably be the crazy cat lady, but life's not as enjoyable.
You would not enjoy it as much.
No, at the end of the day, you want someone to share those things with and inspire you and pick you up and bring your walls down, because that's what life's about, right?
Yeah, and challenge you.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I want to give my husband crap half the time of disagreeing with me for no reason,
he's helping you, challenging you.
He does. He makes me a better person. So there's always a challenge. And I think if I was with someone that agreed with me all the time, I would just be annoyed with that person more.
Yeah, and bored and just you need someone that kind of, not butt heads with, but calls you to rise when you need to. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Okay, so tell us how you even got involved in social media.
I think it was 9 years ago. I feel I'm almost a decade in. My oldest brother started a YouTube channel. He was kind of one of the famous daily vloggers.
Uh-huh.
And I was a single mom at the time and working 3 to 4 jobs and just in a really hard place in my life. I was just literally working to put food on the table. And
you were still in Pocatello at the time?
Yes, I was in Pocatello and living in an apartment. And I remember thinking I just wish that there was more I could do to be with my son. But I didn't feel like college was right for me, because I did go to college for 2 years. I was a cheerleader at Boise State. Yeah. And there was nothing there that really spoke to me. And so watching my brother, what he did, he just, daily vlogging and capturing moments of their life and telling their story, I felt like a calling to women and single moms around the world. I feel like sometimes there's this stigmatism behind being a single mom, you know, oh, you're so lucky they love you. It's it's not like I have herpes or it's not oh, thank you for accepting me for who I am, and
thanks for not judging me when this is my life.
I feel single parents have an addition, you know, I think when I met my husband, he won the all prizes of prizes because he got to see who I was going to be as a mom before I was a mom with him.
Some insight. Yeah.
But back then I just really felt like a calling to be able to speak for young single moms and just women who had dreams. And I felt like I came from a small town where everyone just kind of had your life made up for you. And I really always wanted to just break out of that. And I knew that I had a calling in life to there's something about me, my filter's broken, and sometimes I'll be
it's my favorite thing about you. It is
I'll talk to my husband should I not have said that? I don't think that should have came out, but it did. So I just felt maybe if that's what God wants me to do, to be able to connect with so many people on a level where I can just speak right from my heart and say how I feel, that can be a vulnerability on the internet is a hard thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's really changed throughout the years. But anyway, so I started talking to my brother Shay about like maybe how I could do this. I really love that he was at home, and that's really like when it kind of was a new thing. Now I feel like everyone's a blogger.
9 years ago,
everyone has a blog.
Nobody was really doing that.
Yeah. So it kind of was this really niche, unique way to express yourself and create. I love creating and marketing, and so I found myself doing a channel, my own channel. I was gonna start like styling, fitness, clothing, tips for single parenting, like how you do it. And I was like, well, I have an opinion, and I'm loud, and I am argumentative, and I'm sassy. So what if we call it Carlie Sass? And she was like, oh, I love that. But back in the old days, you couldn't do like you couldn't abbreviate or put anything in your name or any spaces. That all had to be, one
that
domain.
way.
So when you put Carlie Sass into one name in a domain, it's not Carlie Sass, it's Carlie's ass. So literally overnight, my first channel blew up to like 27,000 subscribers.
Oh my
But they were for sure all there for the wrong reason. They thought it was like gonna be some, my profile
Name
was like
ideas, Becky. Name ideas.
So I should change my
Becky
Instagram tag
Sass.
to Mama Becky Sass.
Yes.
No.
Mama's Becky. So that like was a big lesson. That's a big lesson for all of us on marketing and a plan. Whereas you have to really think about it.
Yeah.
You don't just throw it up. And so anyways, I took my channel down overnight because I just couldn't commit. Maybe I should have stuck with it. I don't know.
I think it would have worked out just fine.
It's like, I don't know if these people are here really for like the inspirational things I have to say about my life.
These the right followers.
I mean, I had a great butt back then. I was very young. It was probably a lot tighter than it is now. But anyway, so my channel kind of morphed and evolved, and then I took it down and going through some like life things at that point. And I had been talking to my sister-in-laws, both of my brothers. I love their wives, and I'm so lucky. I don't have a sister of my own, but they're like my sisters. We had started talking about starting a channel for women, and we really liked I think it's Things Utah, something. There's a Utah.
Good Things Utah.
Yes, Good Things Utah.
Yes.
My sister-in-law, Carlie, loves that channel.
Yeah.
And she was like, we could do something like this where we talk about makeup and our favorite
But
things. But on YouTube. So we wanted to really pitch this idea to create a mom's channel for women, but we were going to be the moms. And so we're thinking about calling it The Mom's View. So we wanted to get a grant and some funding to start up this pitch. And so we flew down to Google, me and my sister-in-laws, and we pitched it, and they loved it because that's like the largest demographic on the internet is women and moms. And they, were supportive. And so I picked up my life, and we all moved down to California, and it all really is just a blur since then. So then my channel kind of came off of the Mom's View, my own personal channel, and Carlie Styles. And that was, kind of the same thing I had wanted to originally start, like fitness and lifestyle and tips and just, being a girlfriend, talking to the camera. And then Instagram, I didn't even have an Instagram when I started YouTube. It was just all YouTube. And then social media slowly rolled out after that. And I got a Facebook page and an Instagram and a Twitter. And now here we are 10 years later, and we have a family channel, I have a fitness channel, and it's just kind of all like, I still feel like, well, what am I doing?
I love that though. It's like
it
the
still
best
feels like
place
such
to
a
be.
mess. You need to be my life coach. That's why we're really here today.
My life coaching to you right now is to get comfortable in that space, because the best things happen to you when you're open to it.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes when we've already determined, no, this is my goal and this is my direction. Like I don't even believe in setting goals. I believe
I read that. I love that.
Yeah, not being goal oriented, but being growth oriented.
Yes.
As long as you're growing as a person, it's amazing how your businesses will naturally grow because and you're wired the same way. You're not content with staying stagnant in your life at all. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like my husband and I always joke because his idea of happiness is just contentment. Like no stress, no debt, no worries, just nothing to
Him
to
and my
stress
husband
about.
are the same.
Yeah. For me, contentment is like adventure and achieving and thriving and challenging.
Growing and
I mean, I thrive under that stress. So for me, sitting still and doing nothing makes me anxious.
Yes.
So it's amazing that we've lasted 26 years because we just kind of
yin to the yang.
Yes. It works out well. And he's the best thing that ever happened to me. But
yes,
we have found a balance through the years of how to accommodate both those ways. And for a large part, to his credit, especially when I've been in network marketing and in sales, he had to adjust to that world. And your husband probably feels the same way. Like you walk in a room and 10,000 people know who you are. he has to very quickly adjust.
Knock on wood, one day I'll be there.
You will to what happens with
Right.
that. But you get the same thing when you walk into Disneyland and everybody wants to take
Well, we
pictures
got
with you.
engaged during like one of the biggest YouTube meetups ever, and I was like, so I knew if he could handle it. It was like our VidCon is what it's called, and it's like a convention for YouTubers, and
Yes.
people can like come and meet you. And we stood in line for like 4 hours, and he was such a good sport, and that's when I was like, okay, he
Yep.
can hang, he
Yes.
knows, and he met all the people who watched the videos
Yeah.
and did such a good job, and it was cool.
Yeah, and not every man can handle that. Like there's
So I think I loved about him, like he wasn't at all, not that people would be intimidated, but he wasn't interested in trying to be like become a part of my world. He was just there to support me in my world. And that to me, like that's how I kind of knew he was the one. Like Jackson is the most confident, knowledgeable person in his field, and he's so comfortable there, and he's not one to try to steal the spotlight. Or I always joke, I'm like, there can't be two narcissists in this relationship, so good thing you're not that, so that I can, you know, thrive and be me. But
you can handle this.
yeah, I think that like going back to what we were talking about, some of the best things that have happened in my business I didn't even see coming, and I think it was just because I was open to like, what's the next thing, like what can I do to keep rolling and growing. And some of the, you know, network marketing wasn't even something that I had planned on.
It's usually not.
No, and that's why I'm so happy we're talking today, because I feel like there's such a bad reputation behind it, and I think it's such a different world. It's like it's a new program and ball game than it ever once was. Like I remember network marketing or direct sales or MLMers, which I am now like a brand leader in a company, Red Aspen, but I didn't see that pitch coming. I was happy with YouTube. I was happy with my growth there, and that is a long story, but I remember back in the day there was like a Mary Kay lady. Yeah. And I literally remember her like stalking me at the grocery store and on phone calls and wanted to give me makeovers. And I'm not saying anything bad about Mary Kay or about this woman, because I appreciate her freaking hustle.
Right.
But I think a lot of people have that same idea that that's
do.
who we are. And so when I'm like, yeah, I'm a part of a direct sales company, people are like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah,
You
I
know?
think it blew people's minds. I would get this all the time. I'd have go to dinner with someone, or we're hanging out, or we met somebody golfing, or we're just there and we're talking for hours, and then they finally ask what I do for a living, and they're like, I never would have thought you were. I'm like, that's the point, you guys. But at some point, someone ruined that concept for them, and most people that have a stigma in their mind, or that gives them some sort of bad connotation, it's because it's not even mostly they had a bad experience.
Right.
It's that they've heard someone whose uncle, whose brother, whose dog.
There's like the one person that peed in the pool.
Exactly.
That everyone was in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so now it can't happen. But that's kind of how it is. Instead of basing, and I've just never been wired that way. Like I don't base my relationships off of what somebody else has experienced or said.
Right.
Like it's what I've experienced, how you've treated me, how we go about relationships. And I've also have this thing in me where I love to prove people wrong.
Same. If you tell me no, I'm like, oh.
Yes.
Oh.
I didn't even want to do it before, but now you said I can't, and you said I shouldn't, and now I'm like
Tempted.
Now I actually want to see why.
Well, if you're like, I always try to explain this to like my teams or like, you know, my girls, I'm always like, if you get on social media, you scroll 4th post down, what are you seeing?
Yeah.
People are talking about the products they love, the places they've shopped, things like that's marketing. That's direct marketing. You're speaking to your circle of influence about a product or service or good that you love, whether it's an Amazon box on your porch or the dollar bin at Target. Like every mother out there that's been a Target shopper is an MLMer for Target because you give feedback, and that's all that it is. I think the disconnect comes when you're not genuine about the product or about like the business, you know,
or
when
just
you're
genuine
just
in person.
Yeah, or you're just like cash, you know, not that, and that's another like topic. I don't think money is a bad goal to have, but when people are only focused on the sale rather than the service or like how this really can help someone's life, then you lose that like genuine connection. And that's when it feels like, whoa, no, Linda, I don't want to get on your cleanse diet.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I don't think people are sales resistant. I think they're salesperson resistant. Yeah. So as soon as you turn into that salesperson, immediately walls go up. I do the same thing. If I walk onto a car lot to buy a car,
I just think salesmen have that bad. The car salesmen have that name, that
but
reputation.
I went there to buy a car. Like who walks on a car lot?
You just had a great experience though.
I did have a good experience, and
I
great
see you got
sales guy,
chocolates or roses or something.
Yes,
yeah,
they treated. I mean, you spend enough money, they throw a few things.
You're like, okay, fine, I'll have a box of chocolates.
Okay, thank you. I felt like it was Valentine's Day though. It got a little awkward.
You're like, oh, okay, I am married.
Yeah, no, it was sweet, but
how much is this sale worth?
Yeah, it was worth. Like you should have thrown Gucci bag in there or something.
I know, right?
Yeah, no, but we always go there to buy a car, but then we get offended when somebody comes at us to sell something.
Right.
So it's just an approach. But then you think of the opposite. How many times have we bought something from someone that we didn't need,
Right.
but we loved them, and then they brought value to whatever this was, and all of a sudden,
like, oh,
I needed this, and I didn't know
even know
I needed
yeah.
it. So most of what we do is telling a story and connecting with people. 'Cause
Right.
at the end of the day, people don't follow companies. They don't follow products. They follow people.
And their story and what
Yeah,
they're about,
absolutely.
yeah.
So
I
it's
agree.
just learning how to connect. But I would also never sell something to someone that is like, that's not for me.
Right. 100%. Yeah.
It's just learning how to work that network side of it to where you're not looking at people like a dollar sign. And that's usually where
it goes bad.
And people
Agree.
make idiots of themselves most of
Yeah.
the time. I mean, I still to this day have people that will approach me or send me messages on social media, and because once you're in that network marketing world, you are
I love the industry.
target always.
Yeah.
But they'll half the time I just want to take them aside and be like, "Okay, I love that you tried, but this is what's wrong with this."
Oh, like they're trying to recruit
yes.
you. Yes.
So you're
yes.
like, I just want to take them aside and teach them how to do it the right way.
You're like, little did you know.
You have no chance.
Becky's actually a baller.
Approaching
How did you
me
not know
way.
this?
but I also had no chance at that stage either. You don't recruit people, and it doesn't matter if we're talking for an athletic team or network marketing or Salesforce or even employees.
Right.
You attract people that are like you.
Mm-hmm.
So to go recruit someone or a team, you've got to be the person that they want to follow. So I always tell
Right.
people, even becoming the greatest version of you, you have to become the person that you want to follow, let alone ask other people
I love
to
that.
follow. And
Yeah.
that's hard because that takes time.
Yes.
It takes refining. It's a process. You learn so much about yourself, and it's really hard. I think the hardest thing about sales in general is not only do you learn things about other people, but you learn the most about yourself.
Right.
And at times it can be disturbing. Like
you're like, oh.
You'll see ugliness about yourself you didn't want to see. You'll see capabilities that you didn't know happen, and that's great. And then you see weaknesses that you're like, oh, I just accentuated that, and
Yeah.
that's not comfortable. Which is why you'll see a lot of people come and go
Throughout,
very
yeah.
quickly. Yeah.
I love the industry. Like
I
I
do
love
too.
that there really is no roof, and you can kind of create your own business with
Yeah.
like, a tool or product that you believe in. But yeah, I think so much what you've said of like being the best version of yourself. That's why when you asked about to be on your podcast, I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, and then you released, your first couple episodes, and the title, I was like, I literally just spoke on this. Like the number one question I get asked all the time is, how do you grow your audience? How do you grow such a large following? And I'm like, well, I didn't do it overnight. I did on accident. And it was because people thought maybe I was a porn star. I'm not. I mean, that's very flattering, but
Also, lesson learned.
yeah, sex sells, but that's not always the best avenue. I don't know. It worked out for Kim Kardashian, I guess. But I
did.
think really like when you find out who you are and what you want, and you're not ashamed of that, and you
Yeah.
just start to learn to own it, there's not enough people like that. And I think the world wants that. And
do.
people in the world don't know that they want that. And that's why they gravitate to you. You put off this, when you're confident and loving and accepting, and
Yeah.
you're just owning who you are wherever you're at, whether you're like being successful or like a shit show, because I've owned being a shit show, and
Both
I feel
ways.
like it was great for my career. People want to feel like they can relate to you, and that that they can be real. And I think that is what is the foundation of a good business and of a good platform, because when you start to own yourself and all your strengths and weaknesses,
Yeah.
People know what they can expect, and that's when they want to tune in. It's like The Bachelor, if they missed airing on Monday night and I was there to watch who
Yes.
Pilot Pete picks, I'm going to be pissed, So people want to know that they can count on you and tune in. And I don't know. So that was my talk, was about literally, if you want to grow an audience, be your best, find your best self, and whatever that looks like, it has to be resonates with you.
Yeah, and you have to own it. You do.
Right.
You can't. People always ask me, because we've spoken in front of large groups before, and I am very comfortable with it. Like, don't ask me to go play basketball in front of people or something like that. That
Becky's
I would
like,
probably like sweat from anxiety.
You don't want to
But-
play pig after this?
No,
Al? Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
But standing in front of a room, giving a presentation, training, talking,
You're comfortable there.
you've done it 100,000 times. If you're not good at it by now, you need to be doing something else, basically.
Yeah, right.
But at this point, doing that, people are always asking, like, how do I become a great presenter, and how do I do these things? I always tell people, the only time I've ever heard a bad presentation or a bad training is when someone's trying to be something they're not.
Yeah.
Someone's trying to be funnier than they are. Someone's
Good
trying to
point.
be louder than they are. They're trying to do
More
something
motivational.
Yes. Or they're trying to make themselves cry when they're not a crier, which, by the way, is one of the most awkward things I've ever seen on the planet. Trevor knows who I'm
fake
talking
crier?
about. Yes.
I feel like that brings you a lot back to some Sundays
It was
in
bad.
church.
I know
Yes.
exactly who you're
Yes. And told the same story over and over again.
And you're
would
like,
try and force himself, would even pause at moments to try to force himself to
he's
cry.
like taking a little alcohol wipe and rubbing
Yeah.
himself so like tears flow.
It was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
And so that's the only time you see a bad presentation. And so
Very
owning
good
your
advice.
story, even sharing that. Like when I started in sales and network marketing, I had no problems even telling people, look, I'm doing this because my husband works 80 hours a week.
Right.
I've got 2 little ones. I want us to be a family unit, and I want us to experience life together. And in order to do that, I need to make this business work.
Right.
And I'm asking you to love me enough to check it out or
Right.
to look at the products. If it's
Trust
not
me enough
for
to hear
you-
me out. Yeah.
if it's not for you, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to be offended. I hope you're not offended.
Yeah.
Next time you need a favor, put me at the top of your list. I just
love
need
that.
people to support me.
I like the realness of the approach because I think sometimes people, like I always tell my girls, like you do have something that you're offering that
do.
will help people. Don't go into it like they're going to get, like you're benefiting or like, you know, you really are going to benefit their life, but go into it with like a no BS approach. Like, hey, it won't hurt my feelings and I don't want to be that crazy. I even say that sometimes, like, I'm not that crazy person. I know that this would resonate with you and I think that you would love it. Try it. If not, no big deal. No sweat off my back. And I think people just get so like that fear mentality. Well, what if I miss this sale? What if I miss this recruit? And
Or
then
they get defensive because you have to tell people, look, give permission to be skeptical. Give them permission to say no. Give them
Right.
permission to be annoyed. I mean, I've seen people in
Yes.
presentations. I'm sure you've seen this. People come to a presentation. Someone dragged them there. Like they are annoyed to be there. And to me, I took it on like a personal goal. That person's going to be my best friend by the end of this.
Yes.
Like I'm going to love on them so much. I don't care if they buy anything, sell anything, do
they're just
anything.
going to feel good by the end.
Yes, I'm just going to flip them to where they were grateful that they came.
Right.
If nothing else, because we struck up a conversation and
Right.
and built a relationship off of it.
And then they'll have a good feeling or like, you know, memory of the product
Yes.
and company rather than.
and you're not trying to prove each other wrong. That's where it
Yes.
can go sideways.
It is
very
about flipping the
quickly.
script, and that's
It
one
is.
thing that one big beef that I have with The Secret.
Give
you
us
remember
your
the whole
beef.
The Secret?
Do you
right?
remember that?
Do you remember
That
that?
whole movement of The Secret.
The
was
law of
like,
attraction when it
oh,
was starting to come out.
Yes, I think it's
this
like-
was like
yeah.
2006 or
Oprah
something.
was
Secret,
excited about it.
Yeah.
And
The law isn't basically the law of attraction.
it is, but to an extreme.
To an extreme, and
I
you know,
never watched. I think it was like someone told me like you're not supposed. It was like a religious. Not that I care now, but they're like you shouldn't watch.
oh, that's
Yeah,
funny.
that was-
It does have a dark, secretive kind of feel to it. I think for
I think
I
it
could
was like
see
it was
people
more
like-
based off the universe is giving this to you instead
Not
of God
God.
is giving
Okay,
it.
that's
to you.
yeah, people
Is it-
had an issue with
Right.
that.
It was like you're
Yeah.
asking the universe for something versus recognizing.
But I
it's a
feel like I
blessing.
believe in both. I
I
mean,
do
if we're gonna
too.
go down there, I believe in
I
both.
do too. Karma, energy, all those.
Call
things.
it, call it what you will.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, for me, it is about flipping that because instead of this mindset of, okay, what can I get
Right.
out of this situation? If you flip it to what can I give?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and instead of that poster of like the fancy cars and all the things that you want, you know, and everything for you,
To
Yeah.
recruit
it's like,
or-
you know, maybe change that poster to all of the things that the people that need help.
Right.
You know, and where can I add value to people? And when you wake up with that mentality, I wish I would have known that so much earlier on in the whole process, because it really does come down to, as far as I see, is the value that comes back to you is equal to the value that you put out there to other people.
Right.
Period.
That's true.
And most
Trevor
people try to
and I,
achieve that.
where we met in a company, I won't name its name. It has.
Just write it down in
I
Stomach Style.
really want to though. But, no, we were there for. I was there for 5 years. Were you there for 5
3.
years? 3 years, and you just kind of start to see things behind the curtain and realize everything's not quite what you think it is, and people are not making the money that you think people are making. And so it does. It ruins a lot
Smoke
of people.
and mirrors.
Yeah, that whole deception thing, and there's not a lot of transparency, and which honestly I think is the only way. I don't care if it's business, relationships. Transparency is the only thing that keeps people honest. We are
Right.
naturally deceptive people. And
Right.
so unless you have transparency in your life, your relationships, your businesses, things can just go sideways, whether you want to admit it or not. So just to be right with myself, I had to leave.
Yeah.
And kind of put myself in check. And then, of course, I did the whole swear off network marketing. I would
Our
never do
story
another
is
thing
literally
again.
the exact same thing.
I have a feeling.
Because I started with the company, same kind of
I
situation. And then I never even wanted to be in that company. I was fine doing YouTube and Instagram. Like, I felt like I was successful in somewhat. And then this other thing came into my lap and I was like, sure, I want to try this. This is fun. Like, I like the industry. And then it kind of, after I really I think I was naive a bit and just excited. And after I was willing to be honest and step back and zoom out and really look at it for all that it was, I was like, gosh, I felt the same. I'm like, I can't feel authentic at the end of the day and lead this team and the people I know and love and trust in my life if I don't feel good about the product and the business model and all that. And so I swore it off and I was like, okay, lesson learned. I don't regret it. Let's move on. And then, as life will have it.
Yes.
Another opportunity presented. And then I was like, okay.
And part of that was because I felt like I was looking at people like a dollar sign as well.
Yeah.
And it was ruining.
You have to live and learn. And I don't feel like we can feel guilty, but you have to, I think sometimes.
I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, you kind of have to go to the dark side.
Yeah.
To learn to be on the good side.
You can't know good without evil.
Right?
I heard that somewhere.
We're just dropping all the truth bombs. We're basically Oprah here, okay?
Now we're really going to come up with our alter ego names after this, for
Mama
sure.
Becky Sass.
Yes.
Oprah.
Sass. I just love that.
Oh my gosh. I was so young. I think I was 23. I didn't really know marketing. And my brother's was worse. His was Shaytard. Because his video, one of his videos that went viral is of him dancing in a leotard. But people literally thought he was,
of course,
using the R word.
Because they didn't know in the context what
Right. So thinking, and a lot of companies wouldn't work with him because, it obviously is a play on words and it looks really bad and hurtful. And
they were offended already.
Yeah. So
it's amazing how you think you can be doing all the right things, but you can still
live one day online and you will I feel like
how do you deal with that, by the way? Because I mean, in network marketing, it's one thing, and obviously that you can say, I can say things that I think are funny, and people come up to me afterwards and they're like, "That's not funny," and I take offense to this, and of course I'm like, "Please know that that was not my
intentions." Yes,
ever.
Right.
But I can't even imagine online what gets lost in translation, and then feedback that people there's this thing called screen courage. That people think because there's a screen there, maybe they can say or do.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people like that. And then you meet them in person and you're like, you actually suck. Yeah. As a person, they're so different online. But I think that it's given me a more broad perspective of how something could be taken.
Yeah.
Because, I grew up in a small town and I did travel and move around the world. But I think it's taught me a lot for the good.
Yeah.
And given me a lot of perspective of things I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have ever thought that somebody could see it or take something I said that way. One specific memory, we did a shoot and the makeup artist just put on so much makeup and lashes, I think 2 sets of lashes, and it was just a lot. And I said something I thought was funny, oh, I look like a drag queen, or I think I said something like that, and I didn't think that would be offensive. But then I learned this whole other world, and I was kind of grateful because I was like, this is a fun world. I love these people and how they celebrate themselves and how they have this, and so little things like that. There were some days where I could, learn and laugh about it and be educated. And then some days I do cry and I'm like, I'm done. I hate the internet. That's quit. It's a bad place.
Yes. But it is a great mirror. I mean, it reflects back to you and you realize, oh, that probably is something I need to change about myself. And then there's other moments you dig your heels in. It's like, no, I'm not the problem. You might have the problem.
Yeah. I think
if you saw offense in that.
I am I hate when people tell me what to do. It's my biggest pet peeve. So I think we're so similar. So sometimes reading, I only get offended at mom comments because I know I'm a good mom.
Of course, because that's the most personal thing.
Yes, the closest thing to your heart. And I don't, there's days where I'm like, this is a great learning opportunity. And I think it's just kind of where your mental space is at that day. When sometimes you just wake up in a bad mood and then you read a bad comment. And so then I have to really step away those days. And some days I'm I'll read, oh, you're an effing biatch. You look so fat. You've gained weight. I'm like, oh, Jennifer, you're just having a bad day. Jennifer, it's fine. But then some days I'm like, oh, your shirt doesn't match. And I'm like, oh, it's a
that's
real person.
Yes.
So I think you just have to take it with a grain of salt. But really more than anything, I've had to learn, I have to know who I am at the end of the day. I don't think that the good can affect me as well as the bad.
I agree. And that idea of keeping your emotions in check so that you're never flying off the handle or you're never too far down here. I mean, it's easier said than done.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But in this, I think from being a mom from being married for 25 years, from network marketing, sometimes you find a place where you just stay in that. So some people are so excited and you're like right here. And then some people are so depressed when something happens and you're like right here. Like my husband sometimes jokes that I've got like ice water in my veins sometimes because where some people are flying off. I'll give you an example. He is a certified EMT guy. Like in college, he was going pre-med, so he got certified with EMTs, would do ride-alongs. I mean, he's
seen some like
horrific
stuff.
Yes, things. But when it's his own child,
I get it.
It goes out the window. Like he can't
function.
He can't put a sentence together. Like
that's kind of the cutest thing.
It is, but scary at the same time.
You're like, honey, you're the one that's supposed to know what to do.
Yes, and I have purposely not learned those things because you know them. So you need to be the one.
See, taxes, honey. That's why I just let you have that.
That's a whole nother story. But one time, my kids are in the backyard. My son is swinging a golf club, and Josie walks into it. And granted, it was actually her fault because she already knew what was going on. But she walked into it and took it in the head, and it just gushed.
And head wounds are the worst.
Like chunk out of it, like blood spurting out of her side of her head.
And that's Daddy's little girl, so I'm sure he was like.
So all I hear is John. I'm in the kitchen, like making dinner, and I hear him screaming in the backyard, "Call 911! Call 911!" And I'm like, "What?"
Every mother's
I go
worst,
outside, and I just see him grabbing her. First of all, JJ, who's only like 8 years old at the time, he's bawling his eyes out with a golf club in his hand.
He's like, I killed my sister.
White as a ghost with blood squirting out. John's screaming, call 911. And I'm like, what just happened?
Right. You're trying to put the story together.
And it took a good 60 seconds to get him to even explain. And then I was like, okay, this is an emergency room trip. We don't need to call 911. We need
expensive. Ambulances are
expensive.
expensive.
Yes, put a compress on. But then again, I find myself in this
even
place,
kill, yeah.
Which I always tell people sometimes it's great for stressful situations. But in other moments, you can seem very non-empathetic.
Right.
Because you've been through so much or you've dealt so much or you've solved so many problems that nothing really seems that big of a deal anymore. It's like I'm not someone who's like crazy around celebrities.
Right. Because you're just like,
you're a person.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Whereas my kids will be like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
You met Michael Jordan. Or my little one's like.
Wait, you've met Michael Jordan?
On an airplane.
Oh my gosh, but that's pretty freaking cool. See, I just
well, it was the Black Panther Michael Jordan, not the basketball player Michael, which is still phenomenal. Yeah. But my little one was going crazy because he's like, you met Black Panther.
But that's like his world. Like,
yes, it's his whole
I think I would
world.
fangirl if I met, like, there's a couple people, like Taylor Swift and I might act like a 12-year-old little girl.
Yeah.
I might be like, oh, Taylor.
Do you know who I'm actually probably the biggest fangirl around is my friend John Maxwell, who I actually know personally.
You guys are like close.
And the more I get to know him, the cooler he is.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, for me it makes it more
maybe just because you like, I think the sucky thing is when you do meet somebody you've looked up to and they don't play up to those, you're just kind of like, it's even greater that this inspiration of yours like actually lives up to what you've wanted him to be. Yeah,
it is.
It's scary to like when people meet us and they say like, oh, you're even nicer in person. I always feel relieved. I'm like, well, do we seem like big a-holes or
no?
So that's like for us, I'm like, that's why I turn the camera on in moments where like I half the time have no makeup on, no bra, mom t-shirt and sweat. Like I'm like, people probably think I'm the least glamorous person on the internet.
I love some of the compliments people think they're giving too. Like I've had people meet me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're much prettier in person. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, or you're skinnier.
Okay. Or skinnier, or like, bigger, or taller, or it's like the most random.
Backhand. They don't even realize it.
Whoever says you look worse in person, like you look so much worse.
Oh yeah, I think that would probably. I'd be like, that hurts my feelings a little.
Yeah, like
never gotten that one.
Back and forth, but it's interesting what people think are compliments, and then you're like, I mean, it's people are funny. How do you deal with
Life
all
on the
that?
internet.
I mean, again, you get all of those comments all the time.
I don't know.
Do you just kind of like, you just get to a point where you become a little immune to it?
I feel like the bad, like I think Jackson has helped ground me a little bit. I just, for some reason when I was like a single mom, I think maybe I wasn't in the best place because I felt more defensive. Like I felt like I'm doing a great job. I don't need a husband. I don't need a man. Like I'm doing a wonderful job raising him. So when I would get those like mom comments, I think maybe I was just closer to them because I felt a bit more defensive.
You're more insecure about it.
Now I'm like, I have that grounding and my husband is a great support. So I feel, not that I needed a man to feel that way, but I think that just brought more perspective into my life.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so cliche, but like the secrets behind life are in the cliches, right? Like
It is.
the older you get, the more comfortable you get with who you are, and you start to like, I just don't stress as much as I used to, because you just learn like what's important about worrying about and what's not. And so I just think like over time and just keeping the perspective of, you know, we're never going to be the biggest YouTubers. We're not trying to be something that we're not. We're just trying to keep it real. Taking those comments in and like just really evaluating. Like there's only been like maybe a couple of times where somebody had said something and it's not the nicest. And I was actually like, you know what? They're right. Like we should probably learn from this. And like don't talk about, I'm going to give you some tips if anyone is listening.
Let's give tips.
Don't ever talk about circumcision or shots, vaccinations. Don't ever talk about these things online.
It goes crazy.
Or car seats, like how to properly put your kid in a car seat.
Oh, wow.
Like I didn't know I was such a bad mom because like the buckle, like it's very, I mean, and not that I would take that lightly. And that's things like that, the comments that bug me the most.
But hold on.
Yes, when people are like,
you had a video where you were talking about circumcision. Maybe the
my husband and I. Look how Trevor goes. Rewind.
Hold on.
Wait, are you pro or against it? It depends on how I'm going to answer.
Yeah.
No, but just things like, I mean, we didn't even talk about it because we know that that's really personal for a lot of people. But because I was pregnant with a boy, it came up. And we didn't even breathe a word that we were going to do or not do. That's my son's penis. Why would I be talking about it to a bunch of strangers? Like,
let's not.
I never even brought it up. But because we had a boy, it was assumed that that's something we would do, maybe because of the culture we live in. And so we'd get these weird comments like, how would you take his precious skin and rip it from his thing? I'm like, we never even brought that we were going to do that. So
let's not bring that one up.
So if you are starting a YouTube channel or you are on the internet, don't. I would just, unless you want to, you're good at debating.
That.
I'm not good at debating. I cry and then get upset and move on. So I'm not a good debater because, especially about personal things like your kids, it's like. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about my kid's penis with you. Sorry.
Yeah. I've gotten good when people send stuff to me or they want to defend something or they get mad or they get offended. I'll just respond, that's a really interesting perspective. I've never looked at it that way. And that's basically like my flat out response to, because they're looking to engage and that's usually what they're looking for.
I think that's like the biggest.
They were so heated. They had to send this and now they're waiting for you to come back.
And you might have just been that person in their feed that, you brought up such a good point. I feel like that has been my number one lesson is I've learned like there's just some people, no matter what you do or how you appear or how you say things, they just want to fight with you or they're going to find something that they don't like about you, no matter how great you are. Yep. So, and rather than trying to change to every comment to please everybody, I think that's where people get lost in it. Yeah. You just have to stay who you are because you will get lost. If you're trying to always change and like make these people that you don't even know, they used to call them the trolls, don't respond to the trolls. Yeah. You can't go down that hole because these people literally just want to fight with you. And it's so easy to get sucked into it so quickly. And then I have to ask myself, I'm like, I'm not going to feel better about this. No. I'm not going to feel better about this conversation. Yes, like it's just going to go to a place where neither one of us are going to feel happy. Yeah. So I think like taking that approach, like, I'm sorry you feel that way. Or I even kind of like being like, I don't know, like sarcastic, like, well, I guess the world would be a better place if I did live on the moon, Becky, you're right, like you kind of just have to have a light heart because if you can't take the good with the bad and the bad with the good, you just have to, know who you are, what you're doing, your intentions. And that's, like you said, it's easier said than done, but I try to keep that perspective.
And I think that's the only way you find that is you find yourself. And then you realize not everyone is going to like me. Not everyone's
shocking. I'm very likable.
I mean, I try, but then you also don't. Like, it's funny that I say that because I don't ever wake up with the intention to
make people
like me more.
Right.
And again, that does come with age and time and experience and being stupid and spending a lot of time trying to do those things initially. And then you realize I could do everything in my mind perfectly or
you could
right.
cure cancer and people would still hate you.
Girl, you and I could go stand out on the corner and hand out $100 bills and some people would not take them because they'd be like, they're not real. Those women are crazy. We're going to have to sit through a timeshare presentation. Like,
what do they want? Where did those dollar bills come from? I think it was Brene Brown. She was talking about in her book how there was like this family who sat in front of them at church and they were like always on time and they were always dressed so great and they were like the model church family. And she was like, it was so easy to judge them. Like, well, what does Susie Joe do for a living? And why are they always so perfect? And it's like, they literally are the model family. You just said that. And everyone just wants to find fault because everyone at the end of the day wants something to make them feel good or feel
Yep.
okay with where they're at. And if that means pushing someone down or attacking someone else or whatever, I think that says more about where you're at than where they're at. And that took me a long time to learn
It
that.
does. You can only take offense to something that has a little truth to it.
Yeah.
Meaning, I mean, if somebody literally called me a 6'3" Aborigine woman, I'd be like, that's funny.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like that doesn't really apply.
But when there's like maybe a sliver of light that it could be true, then that's when you're like, oh.
Which is where the mom comments hurt, because all of us,
Right.
we've talked about this a million times. Like that
Right.
mom guilt thing is such
forever,
a real
yeah.
thing. And so when that insecurity is always underlying and it's something you have worked, because it is something I have worked my entire life to balance. Like having a successful career and being a businesswoman and still being a great mom. And there are moments where I haven't been a great businesswoman because I've been a phenomenal mom. And there's been moments vice versa.
Right.
Like I've dropped it with my children and I
Kicked
was
it in
stellar with
business,
yes. And so I think my greatest sense of pride comes from finding that balance and being able to recognize those things and keep my head above water.
Right.
Self-awareness.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that insecurity is always in you. So when somebody throws that out because of
you're just
that,
like, oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
If there's a twinge of pain, there's probably a good chance there's a little truth or insecurity.
Right. And no one likes to hear it, you know? So that's why it's like as soon as you're defensive or angry, I always feel like it's a source of hurt. Like anger is a secondary emotion.
Yeah.
You're always hurt first, but you're coping, so it's coming out as anger or defense, you know? So it's been a learning with the comments and living online. It's been a learning curve, and we're not perfect, and sometimes we fire back and sometimes we laugh, and I just think it gives our life color. You know?
I think you guys are amazing.
You're nice.
And
You're so nice.
those babies of yours, if people are not
Thank
watching you
you.
on Instagram just to see those sweet babies,
You'll be obsessed. They're pretty cute. I mean, I might be biased, but they're cute.
No, they are adorable. And we love watching everything you're doing. I'm so proud of you, by the way.
Thank you.
Not just for the following that you have, but for what you're representing, because there's a lot of people that consider themselves influencers, but what scares me is what they're influencing.
Yeah.
And I love the message that you're putting out there. I love how real and honest you are. And I love that you're leading an army of women to do the exact same thing. So
thank you.
You've got it all in the right spot as you're moving forward.
So uncomfortable to receive such compliments from such an amazing woman. I just feel like I'm like squirming over. I love you. Thank you.
Oh, well, I love you. And I appreciate you guys coming down.
Yes.
I know it was not easy. And
we've only been planning this for 3 months, but like air high five,
hey,
podcast
I
high
don't
five.
give up easy either.
I love you. No, but seriously, like the first time it was snowing and then my cute grandma got in a wreck and then just like crazy.
Your house flooded.
Oh, yeah. Can we just throw in all the things?
Your house flooded.
Oh, that house has been that's a whole nother podcast, but our basement did flood after we had just finished it.
Oh my
gosh. So talk about learning patience as a virtue.
Yeah, I'm telling you, everybody goes through something in life. Just when you think you've got it all figured out.
Yeah. Life will teach you, so just buckle up and have a good attitude.
Sure. Oh, well, we love you, babe. We definitely want to have you back. So, you guys, thanks for tuning in, and definitely follow Carlie on Instagram, YouTube. Give her all the love and support that she definitely deserves. So, thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.